Hello, I'm Pam Smith, Director of San Diego County's Aging and Independent Services. In order for our loved ones to live out their last days in peace, they need to make their wishes for end-of-life care in advance. These are difficult conversations to have, but they are necessary. Families who haven't discussed advance directives can face the most searing of choices. Would my loved one want to live like this, or are we simply dragging out death? This DVD will give you the tools to understand, plan for, and establish end-of-life care. We begin with perhaps the most challenging aspect of advance directives, talking about them.
He was an artist. He did jewelry, sculpture, a lot of different media.
This is a story about confronting the inevitable.
He was a very warm, outgoing, curious, and enthusiastic person, which made it delightful to take care of him.
Coming face to face with wrenching decisions.
It took more out of me than I would ever have imagined. He had a few strokes, like little strokes, to where he didn't know what they were at first, and he would get tired, and he had high blood pressure and one not very well functioning kidney and one non-functioning kidney. So he was toxic, like, you know, he would get sick a lot.
Jeannie Radakovich started caring for her father when he began to falter in his 80s. Like so many other caregivers, she was concerned with his life, not his death.
I mean, I basically knew that he didn't really want any kind of intervention because he wasn't that kind of a person. He wasn't the kind of person that wanted to just hang on to whatever life you had. He was like quality kind of a person. So if there wasn't going to be quality, leave me alone. But then when it came to actually talking about it, it was not as easy as I thought. And it was difficult because it seemed to put a time frame on something that you didn't want to, like, well, when you die, because you know it's coming soon, it's just uncomfortable. We were, you know, really close, and so you'd think it would be easier, but partly because we were really close, it was like too emotional for me. It was like I just didn't want to admit that. I was like in denial.
Then it became necessary to call in hospice, and as her father's condition grew worse, what was once postponed became a crisis.
Time when we had hospice there was really good because, among other things, they were very helpful to make sure that we talked about directives and what was going to happen afterwards, and they're not there to push you to, you know, sustain your life. They're just there to help. Because she talked to me, she goes, well, you know, what am I supposed to do when I'm here? Do I know this? Do I call the doctor? What do I do? And I said, I don't know. And she said, well, you know, let's find out. And I go, I don't know how to ask him. And she walked into his bedroom one day and she said, you know, you're in the active stage of dying. I just want you to know that because there's some things you may want to talk about. He already knew that, and I think it was a great relief that somebody said that. That was huge. And so he said exactly everything he wanted to a detailed thing there. At this point, I'm in pain and I want morphine. I don't want anybody to do anything other than make me comfortable. Let me die. He was more probably relieved. I don't know, more relieved than I was because I was like tortured over it, but it was a huge relief and I couldn't do it. Okay, come on, Judy.
It is a very uncomfortable subject. We need to recognize that. So it is very individual, you know, the planning ahead.
Social worker Veronica Glenn says these conversations are hard but vital. She has some suggestions. First, pick a quiet place and time to hold a discussion. Be a good listener. Be willing to listen to the feeling, emotions, and point of view of the care receiver, even if you disagree. Remember, these are their wishes. And if it's still too difficult, do what Jeannie did and call in a third party.
Maybe you can't do it by yourself. You know, a minister in your church would be a good choice. Your own physician could probably help you with that.
Good girl. Have somebody else initiate the conversation for you. All you have to do is bring up the subject. Then usually you can go on. Just for some reason, bringing it up is just like this thing that gets stuck in your throat. And I can't even think of a logical reason why it would be so hard. It was so much better. Just because you didn't have to worry about something that you really felt had to be done. Lie down. Lie down. Good girl. If you're not sure, you'd feel horrible. I mean, because you put yourself in that position. What if you kind of knew what you wanted and nobody asked?
My mother is 92 years old, and she is, I would say, for 92 in a very good health. I could not do it if she would need 24-hour care. Then I would have to make different arrangements. But up to now, we haven't come to this yet.
Every day, Gundula Dunn makes the drive to a senior living facility to visit her mother.
Hi, Oma. How are you? Huh? How are you?
And take care of her daily needs.
Do you have any pain?
I do not feel good.
Caring for Mother takes up a lot of space in Gundula's life.
I'm making you dinner now.
There's meals to make,
We have broccoli.
hygiene to take care of,
I'm just trimming your nails, Mother.
and medications to dispense.
Oh, you were good. You already did your tablets today. I have to lay all the tablets out for her, and I do all the cooking. I prepare her lunch. I do the laundry and things like this she cannot anymore make independently.
But one thing she doesn't worry about is her mother's wishes for end-of-life care.
Okay, fine. We have forms that made out. She signed it, I signed it. There will be no feeding tube, nothing. We're just letting nature take its course and die in peace.
Everything for Gundula's mother is organized. A do not resuscitate order is prominently posted. Directives for medical, financial, and legal concerns are signed and secured.
Remember, Mother, 2 minutes.
So for Gundula, knowing her mother's wishes and having them in place means honoring them with no second thoughts.
Don't walk, run doing it. Don't wait. Don't wait. And don't be afraid to bring the subject up. We're taking one day at a time. She wants you to know she has a beautiful woman. I think she thinks this is how she was when she was young.
We got zucchini and we got butter squash.
I've got 2 other sisters, one that lives in Duluth, Minnesota, and one that lives in Central California.
Like Gundula, Garnell Maxwell Miller and her 2 sisters have always been close with their mother. Nowadays, it's mostly by telephone. Their mother lives in the family home, hundreds of miles from her daughters.
I have 3 different kinds of peppers. There are challenges as far as coming together with a consensus, whether it's medication, whether it's doctors, treatments, and then even her day-to-day caregivers.
Caregiving from afar can be challenging, but one thing the sisters don't stress over is their mother's advance directives. Plans have been in place for years.
Well, we didn't have any issues when my father moved forward in 2001, so, or 2000. So I feel confident. We do have a lawyer that looked at them at one point in time, and there was no issues. That was when we put the codicil together. So I feel fairly comfortable that we're okay with that. I think 99.9% we're in agreement on what has been set up. And you don't need to throw into the mix a question of, well, what do you do? How do you handle this? Did I do the right thing?
The key here is organization.